And I was so enthralled by what was going on, I used to get upset and frustrated because schools would close every weekend. Schools would be open Monday through Friday, then all of a sudden they would close them down, padlock them for an entire weekend. Made no sense to me. I suppose they still do the same thing here in San Antonio, close the school down. I'd like for you to reconsider that, folk, because when you're young, you have a lot of energy, and you need to use that energy in the service of learning. What are you going to be doing on the weekend anyway? Well, I know a lot of kids don't like to hear that, but kids, when you really think about it, you've got a lot of work to do. The biggest thing you own is your storehouse of ignorance. That's certainly the biggest thing I own, but I have a healthy respect for that. The secret is that condition is not permanent. You can remedy that condition through educating yourself, through taking executive responsibility, through deciding that you are going to become that CEO, that you're going to make executive decisions from here on. And regardless of what the general society says to you about who you are, you're going to disprove all of those fallacies. One of the unfortunate realities we faced in Little Rock as young black kids was the ideological message that white people were superior. That ideological message of white supremacy was woven into the fabric along with another accompanying message about the inferiority of black people. All of that stuff was mythological then, it's mythological now. There is no support for it whatsoever. When we entered Central High School as a group of 9 young black kids, the rumor was that we could not possibly be from Little Rock, that we had to have been imported from Chicago or New York or someplace like that, because homegrown Negroes would never do such a thing. But I'm here today to tell you that I was born in Little Rock, Arkansas, admittedly under very oppressive circumstance. In fact, my birth was announced in December of 1941 when I came into the universe. But my parents were presented to the public as people who did not merit the obligatory social titles of Mr. and Mrs. The white babies were presented as the progeny of Mr. and Mrs. whoever, but then halfway down the list, those titles suddenly disappeared, and my parents were introduced by first name only. The society at that time said, only white people count. But the message I got from my parents, from those in my community, was that is an absolute lie. See, one of the crazy things about oppression and discrimination is black people had to band together in Little Rock. We were forced to be in close proximity to each other, and so we had a chance to talk to each other and tell each other what life was really all about. And the message I heard more often than not was that there is no superior being in this universe. You are a peer to everybody else. And that was a wonderful message to hear, because along with that admonition to take charge of my education, I knew that I was operating on the same plane as everybody else, even though the societal message was quite different. And then we showed up at Central High, finally, only to discover that people were not happy. Well, surprise, surprise, right? We realized that there would be opposition, but what scared me, what shocked me, what caused me all kinds of frustration was the intensity of that opposition. People said basically to us, we will kill you because this is a school for white kids. Black kids have no place here. And yet, we persisted. And those of you who know the story well know that it took the 101st Airborne Division to take us to school. They showed up and we went to school. But even with that group of troopers there, those students at that school were intent on driving us out. And so they engaged in all kinds of activities. In fact, we were assigned personal tormentors. My personal tormentor was a young man by the name of Jerry Tully. And I haven't seen him over these 50 plus years. He could very well be a resident of San Antonio, Texas, for all I know. And if you happen to bump into him, if indeed he is here, tell him that I asked about his health and well-being. Jerry Tully was the kind of kid who expressed his displeasure with his face. He could twist his face in a way that I cannot replicate here for you. I would if I could, but I don't know how human beings actually accomplish such a task. But if you ever needed to find him that year, all you had to do was look right behind me, and there would be Jerry, kicking and biting and punching and scratching and kicking and spitting. And then one day in the gym class, the coach saw some of that stuff going on, and he said, you know what, fellas? I'm sick and tired of you sneaking up behind Roberts, doing these things to it. You're a bunch of cowards. If you were not cowards and truly men, you wouldn't sneak up behind him. You would challenge him face to face to the mat. And he pointed to the wrestling mat.